Good morning. I'd like to welcome everyone to the April 23rd, 2018 meeting of the Rutherford County Regional Planning Commission. If you will stand with us, please. Commissioner Mike Vaught will lead us in our prayer and our pledge. Mike.
Bow your heads, please. Most gracious Heavenly Father, we thank you for allowing us to come together to conduct the county business. We ask that you grant us wisdom, forethought in the way that we achieve this. We ask that you be with all the citizens of this county, be with our elected officials, particularly in this election season, be with those on the state level and the federal level too, be with our first responders and those in the military, particularly those overseas. In Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may proceed. Call the roll, please, Gail.
Rhonda Allen. Here. Jim Aberwater. Here. Lee Bogle. Here. David Jones. Here. Mike Cush. Here. Craig Lynch. Here. Chip Pinion. Here. Charlotte P. Here. Pettis Reed. Here. Mike Blatt. Here. Jeff Phillips.
Present.
Have a quorum.
Thank you, Gail. At this time, we need to approve the minutes from our February 12th and April 9th meeting. I'll call on Vice Chair Mike Cush.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We do have 2 months' worth of meeting minutes to submit to the archives. They look in order, so I would make a motion to accept to the archives.
Second. We have a motion and a second to approve the February 12th and April 9th meeting minutes. All those in favor of that motion, please say aye. And motion carries. Thank you. We have one item that has been withdrawn, and that's item 6B4. Item number 18-2032, Cook Family Investments. We will not be hearing that tonight or this morning. Under new business, items submitted for preliminary plan approval. 6A1, item 17-1012, Secker subdivision, 12 lots on 46 plus acres on RM located off Rooker Road. Rick and Amber Morgan are the applicants. Danielle.
Thank you. This preliminary plan was originally submitted for your approval last year and approved in June. However, since then, the applicant has made some changes that could not be approved administratively by staff, and therefore you're seeing it again. They've made some changes to the detention pond lot, and some of the flag lot access has been changed, and we still have some outstanding comments, and Mike's going to go into detail about those comments we have concerns about.
Okay. Start off with a good one. This one has a lot of challenges we need to look at with staff and the design engineers. It's right at the corner of Rucker and South Rucker, highlighted in yellow, if you can see on the screen up here. It will be connecting to the city sewer that's already in place that runs along Buzzard Branch through here. Continues, this sewer, same sewer goes on to the southeast and goes to Epps Mill down there. But one of the problems we have with this, one of the challenges I should say, not a problem, but it is all in the floodplain. And being as such, we going to require that the lots be built to our flood standards. And I'll turn on the contour lines. A lot of the lots will be loaded on Rucker Road, and then they will divide and have a few flag lots in the back. But if you look at the contour elevations, let's see if it'll draw up for me. There's a 632 contour line, and the flood elevation is 638 to 640. So that's quite a significant amount of fill that they're going to need to build these lots up to. So what we require in the county is that the pad elevation be 1 foot above the base flood elevation. So for this lot here in the corner being at 632, and we say the base flood is probably 639, so that means about 7 feet of fill in this corner. You know, it's not as bad over here, a few feet less, but it's going to require a significant amount of fill for these lots. So what we require also is that they provide a compensating cut. You know, we're bringing all this fill material into the floodplain. We've got to have a compensating cut somewhere else. So they have submitted some proposed design and elevations, but I have not seen the volume calculations to say that, yes, the added fill and cut will balance. So this will be a challenge to make that balance work, all being in the flood zone. Another issue we have is the detention pond. It is supposed to work and not be restricted by the flood elevations. When the flood elevation comes up, the water is supposed to flow out of the pond and function like it as designed. But if the water backs up or over the top of the pond, it won't function as designed. So there are some issues with that we'll have to work out. Being all on Rucker Road, like the county is not proposing, they're not proposing any infrastructure improvements to the county. They'll have to do some sewer improvements to sewer all the lots, extension of the city sewer, but the city will review that. But we're going to require that they submit construction plans, calculations, and everything to show that this will work. So, and then one minor thing was we needed a little more dedication along Rucker Road. It's shown in our long-range transportation plan as a 3-lane road, and we'll need a little more dedication of road right away for that, but that can be easily adjusted on the preliminary. But the two issues I have is the flood zone and the pond. I mean, that's where we stand.
So those are still things you need to get cleared up with the design engineer before.
Right. And like I said, the way we've got the approval process set up now, you've got a preliminary plan showing the division of lots, and then the next step is construction plans, and then the next step is final plat to see that those will work. But this is a challenging piece of property. Being on Buzzard Branch and then backing up connecting to the river here as well. So we'll have to work closely with the design engineer before we can move to the final plat and releasing lots.
Make a motion we defer till we can get all this stuff worked out with them and just so everybody feels comfortable, and we'll move forward after that.
I have a motion and a second to approve. Other questions? Before we move on, Mike, and vote, is staff, what type of properties have we developed that's 100% in the floodplain like this, and how have they turned out, and is staff comfortable with recommending that we move forward with this?
Well, we'll have to sit down with the design engineers and work at the look at the field elevations and the compensating cut for the development. It's not, I mean, there's a lot of flood zones in the county, and we've worked with the design engineers on those, but this one is the first one where it's all completely in the 100-year floodplain in the flood zone, floodway at the north. So this is going to be a particularly challenging one.
All the lots would be flagged?
Yes, sir. Right. They'll require fill, grading plans, if or we could do fill and an as-built survey on the entire field to make sure that the lots are above that. But part of that is, like I said, you've got to have a compensating cut to make sure that the volumes don't impact the flood capacity.
Thank you. Any other questions for staff? This is a preliminary plan. We'll get to see it a couple of more times, or at least one more time. Ready to vote? We have motion and a second to approve the preliminary site plan. I'm sorry? I'm sorry, maybe my hearing aid's not working. And let me just clarify for myself, the reason for deferring that action is what?
We're going to work with sit down with the design engineers and talk these over before we bring it back to you.
Okay, thank you for correcting me. So we have a motion and a second to defer 17-1012 for Secker subdivision. I apologize. All those in favor of that motion to defer, please say aye. Any opposition? Motion to defer carries. Item 6A2, 18-1006, Buchanan Estates, Section 8, 149 lots on 70-plus acres on RM, located off Pinion Trail. Jones Construction Company is the applicant. Danielle.
Thank you. Buchanan Estates, Section 8, 18-1006. This is a continuation of the Buchanan Estates subdivision. At the time the agenda package went out, we still had some outstanding comments, which has since been impressed with everyone. Let's see. They've been addressed, and we find that this plan's in good order.
Right. So we've had a lot of talks with the design engineers on this. This is the original submittal, if you can see on the screen. What was it, 149 lots? So it's a significant amount of lots. We asked them to add a stub down on this area, and they have done that, and we're feeling a lot more comfortable about that. If you can see, there's a lot of residential lots that would have only one way in, one way out through this Duesenberg Drive, and they have agreed to add another connection here, which will eventually tie to the rest of Buchanan Estates and will help disperse the traffic. So we're feeling a lot more comfortable about that. And this is also on city sewer.
Make a motion to approve, subject to staff comments.
Thank you, Craig. Do I hear a second?
I have a question. There's a plat note that lot 601 and other lots constrained by the TVA need to be critical lots with individual lot plans. I'm having trouble getting mine to focus. How many other lots besides 601 are affected by that TVA easement?
All because this is all common space, remaining lands back here. And these are flag lots going back to the ponds.
Okay, so you know which lots need to be. It was summarized for me.
They'll be identified on the recorded final plat that they have to have a special building plan, grading plan for that. I mean, a plot plan, excuse me.
Other questions? We did have a motion to approve, correct? Thank you. We have a motion and a second to approve item 18-1006, Buchanan Estates, Section 8. All those in favor of that motion to approve, please say aye. Is there any opposition? The motion to approve carries. Thank you. Let me kind of clarify something that's going on here. I've got some allergies that are acting up, and I'm having a hard time hearing, so make sure you use your microphones so that I can hear and maybe the people at home can hear. Me especially. Okay, item 6B submitted for final plat approval. 6B1, item 17-2073, Madison Cove subdivision. This is a reapproval, 58 lots, 56 of which are buildable on 48-plus acres on RM located off Leanna Central Valley Road. Leanna Investments is the applicant. Danielle.
Thank you. Madison Cove subdivision, 17-2073, involves 58 lots on 48.45 acres. This is a reapproval of a final plat that was approved back in October 23rd of 2017, and the plat was not recorded in time and has since expired. The applicant has not made any changes, but they are simply asking for reapproval.
Staff has no objections.
No.
Chairman, make motion to approve as previously approved.
Thank you.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve item 17-2073, Madison Cove subdivision. Any other questions? All those in favor of that motion to approve, please say aye. Any opposition? The motion to approve carries. Thank you. Item 6B2, 18-2038, Davenport Station, Section 1, 47 lots on 89-plus acres, Zone RM, with a previously approved CUP for a PRD and a PUD located off Shelbyville Pike, US 231 South, BMCH, Tennessee, is the applicant. CUP is a conditional use permit, and a PRD is a planned residential development. We all know what a PUD is. Okay, Danielle.
Davenport Station, Section 1, 18-2038, involves 47 lots on 89.85 acres, and we just went over the zoning classifications, but this is part of the plat's part of the originally approved, was originally approved by the Planning Commission at their July 28, 2008 meeting. However, since the time has passed and we're in 2018 now, we have assigned it a new number. And they've addressed all the issues, some of the housekeeping issues that were brought to their attention during the second review, and we find that the plat is in good order, and it is consistent with the originally approved PRD.
Everything good on your end, Mike, as far as the drainage on this first part and any red flags you see that may affect the others as they come to us?
No,
This is a pretty big subdivision.
Yes, sir, it is a very big subdivision. They have actually 3 sections under construction right now. Section 1 is one nearing completion. They have yet to finish the step system, but that's will be in the works in the next few months. They are installing, if you can recall, we had some issues with, or discussions, I should say, of turn lanes on Shelbyville Pike. They are installing a northbound left turn lane into Davenport Drive in the 231 median, and then also they're a deceleration right turn lane coming down from Shelbyville Pike, and Section 1's in this area right here. But they are progressing and moving ahead, and they should be ready for plat recording in the next few months as soon as they finish the step system. I think that's one of the big holdups they're waiting on.
Make a motion to approve, subject to all staff comments.
Second.
A motion and a second to approve Davenport Station Section 1. Any other questions for staff? All those in favor of that motion to approve, please say aye. Is there any opposition? Motion to approve carries. Thank you. Item 6B3, 18-2031, Higgins Property Subdivision, 2 lots on 5+ acres on RL located along Horton Highway, Eagle View Village General Partners are the applicant. This includes a waiver to our fire hydrant distance requirements. Danielle?
This is a minor plat, but is appearing before you because they're outside of the 1,000-foot fire hydrant distance requirement. And the CUD has provided us a letter indicating that this area cannot be served, or the installation of a fire hydrant can't be supported. Apart from that, the plat is in good order. It's 2 lots on 5.05 acres zone RL along Horton Highway.
And we have some really steep slopes. There's a, almost like a mesa. You can see this tree line. I'll zoom in and show you the area. But beautiful piece of property. It's going to make some really nice home sites. But because of the steep slopes, we're going to require that each lot have a critical lot grading plan. Once that is approved, we can submit for building permits.
Mr. Chairman, I move for approval with staff comments.
Thank you, Pattis. We have a motion and a second to approve Higgins property subdivision of 2 lots. Any other questions?
Mike, I'm not familiar with Horton Highway. Is that a very busy road? Should they have a shared driveway as opposed to?
Not extremely busy.
They'll need a state permit.
They'll need state permits. So it's Horton Highway is US 31A, so the state will issue those driveway permit cuts. There is one existing gravel drive on one of the lots right now, so I don't know if they could continue to use that for one of the lots, but I believe they'll be able to get each a driveway, just looking at it.
Other questions? All those in favor of that motion to approve, please say aye. Is there any opposition? That motion to approve carries. Thank you. Item 6A4 has been withdrawn. Item 6A5, 18-2033, second re-subdivision of Pleasant View Farms and Track 11 Vault Properties, 6 lots on 39+ acres on RL, located off Pleasant View Drive. D. Corletto Ward Farms is the applicant. Danielle.
Thank you. The second re-subdivision of Pleasant View Farms and Tract 11 Vault Properties. The property was originally subdivided in 2011. We've included the original plat in your application packet or agenda package. And at that time, the plat was approved with a waiver to the fire hydrant requirements. Since that time, a fire hydrant has been installed along Pleasant View Drive, and Lot 3 will continue to be accessed off the existing access easement from the 2011 plat. Okay. And then the remaining lots will be accessed off a proposed easement off the cul-de-sac. The applicant has addressed all of our comments since there were some housekeeping issues, and we find that the plat is in good order.
Another good-looking piece of property, 5 acres and above, but they're combining this large parcel and I think this tract of land right here, and then subdividing into lots. There is some flood zone, but they'll be required to do the elevation certificates on those. Most of the lots will need can be out of the flood zone, but some will need some work and elevation certificates. But these are mostly 5 acres and above, a lot of these lots.
Mike, I have a question. Again, I'm sorry, my iPad is slow today. I'm having trouble getting it to focus quickly enough. How many lots total are we allowing off a private easement with this?
Got 2 coming off this leg right here. Lot 5 is a flag lot that goes back, and then these 3 and 4 will be off an easement off of that flag. And then Lot 6 has an existing easement through this tract owned by Willie Frazier back here.
So how many is that total, including whatever was already on it? I can't tell. It looks like a very creative way to get
Two
around.
off of this, the one that they're creating.
Sorry, how many? We're adding 2, or there are only 2 total? Because this looks like a lot of lots.
Well, they're combining, this is one large parcel right here. And this was, I think, Lot 11 that they're combining as well. So they are taking a large parcel and this Lot 11 and then subdividing it again to create these other lots. This was the existing, I believe, Lot 11 right here, and then this was a large tract of land here. So what they're doing is they're creating this flag lot. These will all have frontage. Lots 1 and 2 will have frontage on Pleasant View Drive here. This Lot 5 will have frontage as well, and then lots 3 and 4 will be have access easements off of Lot 5. And then this remaining parcel back here, Lot 6, has an existing easement that they'll use to get back to their property here. So essentially 3 lots will be on easements, but 2 will be on one and 1 will be on a different easement.
Clever way to get around doing a county road is what it looks like. And again, if my pad would focus better, maybe I could follow it a little bit closer, but it just seems like there's a lot of lots and a private easement. And so that's my concern.
Drive is already a county road, and it's built and constructed. So what they're doing is they're combining this large parcel on this tract right here and then subdividing those 2 tracts of land.
So the new private easement that's being created, how long is it going to be? I'm more comfortable with it being 500 feet. It looked a lot longer to me. And so that was my concern, is if we're creating a very long, very heavily traveled, very used private easement, then my concern, of course, was maintenance long term. So that short of a distance, I think we're going to be okay.
Like I said, these 2 lots have frontage on Pleasant View Drive, and this Lot 5 will also have frontage. So 2 lots on one easement, 1 lot on another.
Other questions?
Jeff, let the record reflect that I did not participate in the discussion, and I am not going to vote.
Thank you, Mike.
Make a motion to approve, subject staff comments.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second to approve 18-2033, second re-subdivision of Pleasant View Farms. Any other questions? All those in favor of that motion to approve, please say aye. Is there any opposition? Motion to approve carries. Thank you. Item 6B6, 18-2035, Clearview Acres, Section 1, 76 lots on 62-plus acres zoned PUD located off Walnut Grove Road, 3BC is the applicant. Danielle.
Thank you. This 76-lot subdivision on 62 acres, the property zone PUD. The preliminary plan for this development was approved at your meeting on October 24th, 2016. The final plat is consistent with the preliminary approval. They have addressed all of staff's comments. We do anticipate they're still in the process of constructing their step system, which engineering will work with them, and CUD obviously, and we find the plat to be in good order.
Thank you.
Mike, will this stub into anything else, or will it be dead end back in there? My pad's slow to load.
There's another development that was brought before us recently. I apologize, I can't remember the name, but it's got development here which will connect to this development called Walnut Grove Farms, which will in turn connect to Richmond's Retreat. And they've got a few stubs on either side in future developments. I'll show you the final plat. This is the final plat, and it's kind of turned on its side. North is, let me see if I can turn this. Maybe not. But this is Walnut Grove Road here, and they've got one stub to this connection here, and this is that new property that's being rezoned, that will have a connection here, and then the rest of the road network will continue to the west.
We have approved a lot of several tracks for large subdivisions on this road, and I know it's relatively flat in that area. Are you comfortable with all this drainage? And the second question, this is part of all of that where somebody's going to have to build the turn lane, yes, or they're going to have to get together, or nobody's going to do anything.
Clearview is actually committed to turn improvements at the Shelbyville Pike intersection in the next or subsequent phase. They won't be required to do it because of the number of lots on this first phase. You are correct. There's several developments coming before us on Walnut Grove Road. None have come to the point of selling lots yet for home construction, but this one still has a lot of work to be done on their step system as well. They haven't broke ground on Walnut Grove Farms, this one here, and this one is just getting through rezoning. There's another one to the south called Walnut Downs that'll connect to Lewis Downs, a little bit farther to the south. They are still in the process of construction, but at each submittal, we're going to look at the traffic counts and see what improvements are necessary. So, like I said, Clearview's already agreed to the turn lane improvements at Shelbyville Pike coming out of here, and eventually we're probably, because of the number of lots, we're probably going to be looking at a traffic signal here. But that's something we're going to have to work out with the state. Just because of the number of lots trying to turn left or north on 231, it's going to be a needed improvement there eventually.
Mike, I think maybe I've asked this before. Is there a possibility with Richmond Retreat, those connecting, or is it land in between? It's not.
So they will all connect. They are all. We're working with there's two different design firms working on this, and they are connecting all the stubs together. So yes, Clearview could eventually go through to Richmond's Retreat Drive, but most likely a lot of the traffic will come out to Walnut Grove Road and then come out.
Yeah.
It'll have options. It'll have
Okay.
options.
So eventually, sometime that will be connected through there then. Okay.
What about the drainage and just comments on drainage on the entire area?
Sure, it is flat as
I know there's a lot of
Yes, sir.
crawfishy, what farmers used to call crawfishy type soils out there in some of these.
Walnut Chase, everything's got a Walnut name. Walnut Chase also has a lot of wetlands back here. Clearview, there's a drain that comes through here, and with all the improvements in here, they've had to add a concrete swale because it is so flat, like you say, to move the water through here. So that's one of the improvements that they've had to make in this flat area. As far as soil, I believe you're correct too. There's a lot of, let's see. There's Dalton, Ruellen. It's a real thick crawfish clay like you're talking about. So it's a challenge that we'll have to address with road construction or just leaving it in a protected wetland area, which most of these two developments have.
Mike, is that not in their plans that we do leave that in a lot of wetlands? That was my initial understanding when we first discussed this, that this would be left in that situation. On down the road just a little bit down there, I know there's a bridge and a creek back right in there that handles some of that water in that area there. Most definitely we have to make sure that these developments do look at that interchange as far as traffic is concerned. I was there Saturday trying to get out at that intersection just for Saturday traffic. It's quite heavily situation to get out of there. You almost have to close your eyes and go, and it's almost to that point. I mean, if you ever had a dream to ever drive in NASCAR, just go out that highway sometimes. That's almost what we've got there. So if they are on board to work with us in doing that and possibly seeing that, and most definitely once these developments are put in operation out there, once they start selling, I think we will have to be looking at a light for that intersection there.
That will be part of the review process, is to look at the traffic impacts of each phase. Clearview's already stepped up with the number of lots that they have. They've already proposed as a preliminary phase just to do left and right turn lanes at Walnut Grove and Shelbyville Pike here. So, and eventually the numbers will warrant a traffic signal at that intersection to allow traffic to move to turn to the left.
But Walnut Grove Road is just not a county road anymore. That's a state road too. That's Highway 269.
Every subdivision, they have to get state approval for a road connection through there, and then we work with them and review with the state as well on these.
Any right-of-way dedication? Does Walnut Grove need more right-of-way? State comments on that or anything?
Widened as well, improved. This was an old route going to the the southeast, I don't believe that matches the new plan. They were going to tie it up, connected to 269 on the east side of Chevrolet Highway here. So, but it is on their radar to be improved. Most likely a 3-lane road with shoulder improvements. But each development that we work on, we require them to go ahead and do the shoulder improvements and dedicate the right-of-way, so when they do come through with the widening of Walnut Grove Road, it's already in place, and we don't have to buy lots or adjust anything off of that.
Mike, with all this development on Walnut Grove Road, does this put this light on Walnut Grove ahead of maybe Davenport on Rucker? Does it advance it?
The way Davenport's progressing a lot faster than all these developments here. I don't know if it's just the contractors are to their limits and can't finish the work as much, but Davenport Station is progressing a lot faster, and I'm envisioning seeing a traffic signal at across from Rucker before I see one down here. So Davenport Station does know that they will have to have a traffic signal once it is warranted. It's a little bit farther up. Once it is warranted here at this intersection, their phase 1 of Davenport Station is this other connection here, which is a little bit farther north. So once the numbers come online, like I said, they've got 3 sections under construction right now. Not so much, we only have Clear View under construction and Walnut Downs under construction. These other 2 developments haven't even started yet. So they're a little bit farther behind.
Mr. Chairman, with the understanding that this development does know that this traffic will have to be dealt with in the future when they go online with some of these things, I'll go ahead and ask for the approval with staff comments.
I have a motion and a second to approve Clearview Acres Section 1. Other comments or questions? All those in favor of that motion to approve, please say aye. Is there any opposition? Motion to approve carries. Thank you. Item 6B7, 18-2036, Cascade Falls, Section 6, 32 lots on 16-plus acres zone RM located off Cascade Way Drive. Michael Hollingshead is the applicant. Danielle.
Cascade Falls, Section 6, 18-2036, involves 32 lots on 16.8 acres, Zone RM, and the preliminary plat for this development was approved at your meeting on July 10, 2006. The final plat appears to be consistent with the approved preliminary plat, and this also includes a fire hydrant waiver. All of the lots will require residential sprinkler systems consistent with previous sections of the subdivision, and the applicant has addressed all of the outstanding comments, and we find that the plat is in good order.
Section 6 will be in this area here. This cul-de-sac, and it'll have a stub connection to the previous Section 5, which is right here. To get reference, this Section 5, Section 6 in here with a little bit of road frontage along here. Eventually, Cascade Falls will connect out to Powell's Chapel Road, which will have another entrance.
How many more sections are there to this neighborhood?
Question. I would say 2, maybe 3 more sections out to, we think 2, maybe 3 out in this area here.
And where's the road? You said it's stubbing to Section 5. I don't see a road coming out of 5.
There is one right here, Blackberry Patch, and it'll connect to Watercress Drive here.
Is there no common area for this neighborhood? I know this kind of predated when we were really encouraging common areas. Because I also noted on the plat that there's no homeowners association, so, and usually that was kind of the time that we began to require those, was when there was common maintenance areas.
Backs up to Fall Creek, and these are lots that go to the center line of the creek here, but no, these are all, I believe they're RM lots. Yeah, they're all RM, straight RM lots, so 15,000 square feet at least.
Mike, is there future development in that plan for that floodplain zone just to the southwest?
Our FEMA elevation certificates, they have proposed fill on the construction plans to, build the pads up already, and with a little compensating cut area down here. But as far as development, this is owned by somebody else, but they do have a connection through this parcel to Powell's Chapel. And this is almost to Wilson County line. You can see this heavy line is the county boundary, and here's Bill France and the Nashville Super Speedway's up here, a little bit farther up, right here. So you can see we're almost to Wilson County with this development.
So, and maybe this is a Jamie question, so the potential 2 or 3 more phases that are planned are more to the northwest of this T, or are they down in the...
Oh, sir, they're on this dashed area right here. This is the remaining land highlighted in yellow.
They're high and dry.
Or,
They're high and dry, then they're
yes,
far
sir,
enough away from...
There are some areas that have flood zones, but I think they are mostly out of it. Yeah, here's the flood zone over here. And this is Fall Creek, just for reference.
I would make a motion to approve, subject to staff comments.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second to approve Cascade Falls, Section 6. Other questions? All those in favor of that motion to approve, please say aye. Is there any opposition? Motion to approve carries. Thank you. Items 6C, submitted for site plan approval, 6C1, 18-3006, Elam Road Office Building, new construction of 11,510 square feet of construction, sales, and service space. This is for an office building on 3.4 acres, zoned CS, located along Elam Road. Southern Building Group is the applicant. Danielle.
Thank you. This site plan, the property was rezoned recently at your or at the Board of Commissioners March 15, 2018 meeting, and to zone the commercial services zone, and it was rezoned with the intent of developing this specific use, construction, sales, and services. And the applicant is moving forward with the submittal of the site plan, and they have addressed all of staff's comments, and we find that the plans are in good order.
This parcel.
Mike, what are your thoughts on the physical part of the property?
This is a very nice set of plans, very well done, a nice design. They've got a detention area, bioretention area in the back, storm drainage network connecting the two. They'll be on a conventional septic system. These areas kind of dashed out here are their soils areas, and they're trying to preserve those. They'll have one connection on Elam Road, which is, let me show you, close to this existing, I think it is in this line of this existing driveway here. This will be closed off, this other driveway on the parcel, and it's got sufficient distance from the apartment complex entrance, so it shouldn't cause any issues with the turning movements with the apartment complex. There is a billboard on the back of the property, and there is a pond essentially where they're putting the bioretention area that they'll have to work around. There are some old agricultural fallen down structures in these areas that they'll have to remove. As far as traffic, had Matthew Fasig in our office look at the traffic, and we met also with the city on this. The city is proposing to help with the traffic in the area. They are planning to signalize the ramp at Joby Jackson and 24, and then also the Elam Farms Industrial Parkway, this industrial road here. So when we met with the city, they feel that with these two traffic signals, the timing, design can help the traffic flow come out of Elam Road. So that's on their plans to put an intersection here, traffic signal, excuse me, here and at Elam Farms Parkway.
Future plans on Elam Road, and we've got adequate setback to the buildings to
Oh, yes.
accommodate any future expansion of or widening of Elam Road.
We're in this parcel right here, with the yellow highlighted one. So they have more than enough space in here for
Hey, Mike, I should know this, but I slept since last meeting. Is this the property that we chatted about last month, or is it the one?
park traffic through here.
Okay, all right. I thought maybe.
That's where we met with the city, and we, like I said, Matthew did a thorough study of this. He put traffic counters out to count the traffic going north and south. And what he's determined is that the Elam Road itself is a level service A, almost a B level service. It's the connections at either end that are the issues. So the city is proposing to, like I said, put two traffic signals here to help with the traffic coming out. Most of his counts found that 60% of the traffic from these subdivisions are coming down to Joby Jackson to the south, and then maybe 40% going north, trying their luck at the Manchester Highway intersection. Because this intersection at Manchester Highway is so close to the signalized intersection at South Rutherford Boulevard, the city didn't envision another traffic signal here. So that's just something that they'll have to work around. There is a proposed connection, this industrial drive, let's see. This industrial drive will swing up and come out to Manchester Highway, and I think there is that might be the only connection, but there's another improvement out here to Manchester Highway. So hopefully that traffic can help disperse, or these signals improvements will allow the traffic to come out clear at this zone. But
Okay, Michael, will you repeat one more time what the city has agreed on the traffic signalization right there at the ramp?
I don't know the timing of it. That's in their purview. The Joby Jackson is their road essentially, even though it's they are proposing at the ramp here to put a traffic signal, and then also at Elam Farms Parkway here. So their thought is the timing of these two lights that can block traffic will allow Elam Road to clear out, to empty out, because the two intersecting roads on Joby Jackson, the ramps and the Elam Farms Parkway will block the traffic and allow them to come out. That's their thought.
I guess I want to go on record for the minutes and for this community there that was against this development, and for all those folks that fight this traffic issue. They came out and voiced their opinion against this. We voted for it because from a planning standpoint, it was a good plan. But we, as this body, heard their concerns. We acknowledged the fact that there were traffic issues and congestion issues. We heard their pleas, and we asked county representation, planning, we asked you and Doug to meet with the city and discuss these issues and try and work some plan out about the traffic. And perhaps as a result of that meeting, these two intersections will have, at some point in time in the future, a traffic light. So the system does work, and I just want to go on record the fact that for those people that were concerned and the people in that community, that city county can work together, and so we should all pat ourselves on the back and thank you for taking our request forward to the city and getting something worked out.
And just to add something else, we did take the County Highway Department with us, and they were very helpful. And it was so beneficial that we've set up a quarterly meeting that county and city will sit together and discuss things such as this. So it'll be an ongoing thing, not just a one-time thing.
My compliments for doing that, because with the recent changes in state law, you know, the expansion of the city out is not as certain as it used to be. So I think that's a good thing.
Other questions? Mike, after all those comments, did I hear a motion in there?
Thank you for reminding me. I would make a motion to approve, subject to staff comments.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second to approve the Elam Road office building. Any other questions? All those in favor of that motion to approve, please say aye. Is there any opposition? Motion to approve carries. Thank you. Brings us to the end of our agenda. Staff have any business?
No, sir.
I'd like to remind everyone that our next scheduled meeting is for Monday, the 14th of May, 6 p.m. in the courthouse here. That's a 3-week break, guys, so you enjoy it. It happens a couple of times a year. Rhonda?
Mr. Chairman, I have just a couple of questions for staff I wanted to discuss. On the Cascade Falls that we looked at, when we had, and there was another one prior to that, where we looked at these, approved these a decade ago. And there have been a lot of changes that we've observed in a lot of these neighborhood plans that we've seen through the years that have been really positive, and it's been ways to sort of increase livability of these communities with sidewalks and community parks, things like that. At what point are we allowed as a body to begin to ask for those things. I didn't want to do it here because they'd already received their approval and there were already 200 lots in development. But I am very concerned about a repeat of a Lake Forest type situation where you have house after house after house, and the quality of those homes, the future quality of the livability of those communities is not there. And so how can we incorporate that, and at what point are we allowed to incorporate that?
Well, if there are changes to federal or state laws that we have to enforce, we can do that. But on the by and by, we hold to the previous approval and stay with that, and just know that any future development that connects to it will have to meet our current standards. So
really, so when a new proposal comes in, really it's at the point of the preliminary plan that we begin to look and ask for those things.
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Josh, can we require them from a design standpoint? I don't know that we have anything in the ordinance that allows us to require those things.
Are you talking about multimodal, sidewalks and
Yeah, the livability qualities.
ability? Yeah. Now, Danielle might be able to address this better than I, but any planned development now has to have common space, livable, usable space in their design. If they're asking for something smaller than the standard RM zone, we ask that they provide open space, usable open space, not just flood zone or
Like this was just straightforward RM, so we wouldn't have had an opportunity to ask for those
we
things.
we don't have a policy on, adding bike lanes and sidewalks. It'd be nice to. I enjoy those myself, but it's not in our regulations that we require that. So,
Josh, is that anything
Yeah.
that we could incorporate?
Maybe. It's a pretty complicated question, actually, because in 2015, there was a vesting statute that was passed in Nashville, and it's really a fact-specific inquiry in every instance whether or not a developer's rights have vested, and it relates to things like over what period of time have they moved dirt and things like that. But under that statute, it is possible, maybe even probable, once they've started moving dirt, that the rights vest in that developer and attach to the plan. And so it can get fairly complicated. On the flip side, if you had somebody who came in and one of these said 2006, I think, for the preliminary, and it literally just sat there since 2006 and no dirt was moved, we'd have a much better position to require them to come to current standards because they haven't done anything to vest themselves in that preliminary plan. There is also, Mike mentioned this a minute ago, some language in that statute that says to the extent there are federal or state law changes, those can always be required. In other words, a developer doesn't vest in predated state law requirements. So if the state comes along and says you've got to do X, Y, Z for flooding or whatever, you can always make them do that. They're not vested in that old law. So unfortunately, it makes it hard to cast with a really broad net on how to deal with this because every circumstance is going to be unique.
What about, like in this situation, if this was a brand new proposal today, but just RM, because I guess that's what I'm thinking too. If it's just a straightforward RM, we don't have anything that dictates design standards. That's only when it's a planned development, correct? So is there a way for us to incorporate something into our subdivision regulations that would require once you get over a certain threshold? I mean, this one was over 200 lots now. I'm just looking for ways to create livable communities.
I think one thing that we could consider, at least, I'm not prepared now to put the stake in the ground here, but I don't know if there's a way to put something in the zoning ordinance or the subdivision regulations and/or your regular votes, where you say subject to staff comments, maybe it's subject to this too, but basically it's expressly subject to changes that may occur in the subdivision regulations. Now, you've got to harmonize that with the vesting statute, because I don't think we can override somebody's vested rights if they have vested under the law. So we would have to figure out a way to do that where we're harmonizing those two things, but you might be able to do it where you say any preliminary approval is always subject to modifications in the subdivision regulations that do not contradict vested rights under TCA, whatever it is, or something like that, which would at least give us some flexibility going forward if we amend the subdivision regulations and we have one that sits there a long time, to at least take the position that they have to bring it current when they bring the final plat forward. I think it's something we'd want to be careful about how that looks, but it's something you can charge us with looking into.
If y'all could give that some thought and just think about what would be appropriate language, again, with the ultimate goal in mind of just creating livable communities, things that are going to sustain their value over time. And that's really what I'm looking for, whether it's just in a traditional REM, or planned unit, because I realize in our planned unit we have a lot more options than we do under just the straightforward REM zoning. But if you could do that, I think that'd be great. I have two more things. The next one is Manchester Highway. We're so close to that area. Every time we get close to Manchester Highway and you talk about an active community that you want to be responsive to, I always remember that community comes out in full force anytime there's development, particularly any sort of commercial development that happens in that area. And I've made this suggestion before and we've never really followed through on it. And that is, I'm wondering if there's not some way for us to create an overlay district along Manchester Highway that requires whatever development happens, that it protect the character of that corridor, because that's really been one of the key factors, one of the key concerns that we've had, is that we don't want to have an Amazon building come up along, that area. And it wouldn't be spot zoning because there's so much commercial development in that area. And it's becoming a more, major road. I mean, it's obviously a major thoroughfare anyway, but anyway, I just think we need to do something to protect the character of that area. And if anybody has any ideas on how to do that, whether it needs to be regulatory or not, I don't know. But I just know that we hear that all the time, and as we're developing more and more, these kinds of issues are going to become even more critical. When we did our comprehensive plan, that was one of the factors that we incorporated in, was protecting, the character of communities. And so that the character of that area could change very quickly if we don't figure out some way to protect it and to protect those property owners. And I think we can do it in a way that doesn't take away rights from the existing property owners. If you remember that there's a development proposal that we had that I don't think ever came to fruition, but that applicant volunteered to put in, forestry buffers, and things like that to really protect that area. They didn't have to do that. So I'm looking for something that really provides protection for that area. And then the last thing I want to talk about is, this is another thing that maybe it's just a bee in my bonnet. I'm open to the wisdom of this body, but when 840 was originally designed, it was designed to be more of a scenic corridor. I have since seen 3 billboards go up. I just saw them recently, just before you get to Veterans Parkway. I do not want to see billboards all along 840, because I guarantee you Williamson County is not going to allow them, and I don't want people to drive from Williamson County into Rutherford County and say, oh gee, we're in Rutherford County now, because look, it's just littered with the billboards. And again, I'm open to the wisdom of this body if you don't agree with that and you don't think that's a good idea, but I just feel like it's a detriment to our community to let that scenic area just be littered with billboards.
Sorry. I think Doug would be one to answer that, but and we'll talk to Doug about all your points. But it was my understanding that 840 was a scenic road, and I didn't think we allowed billboards.
The way our ordinance is written now, billboards are only allowed along the frontage of I-24 and shall not be located within 200 feet of a residential zoning boundary.
I think I may remember Doug saying that 840 got recharacterized and may not be a scenic any longer, and that we don't have control over that characterization, and that could be an ongoing issue with billboards that we might need to, if you're concerned about it, think very carefully how to get your arms around it.
That area is one we do need to look at, because it is now Interstate 840.
Yeah, I think once it connected or something, it created an environment where they could recategorize it, and I think, in fact, they may have.
Well, on that point, that's not what I want to speak of, but on that point, we might pass a resolution, pass it along, at least let them know we're looking and would like to keep it the way it has been previously. To Rhonda's point about the Buchanan, well, the Manchester Road area, the Buchanan area, you know, when we did the rezoning out there on a one quarter of that, we discussed having an overlay, or at least looking at the exchange out there. We just put another 150 lots on that interstate exchange. I think we ought to be looking at that and looking at it hard and incorporate some of what Rhonda said into looking at that entire area out there, because it's going to develop. And like I said, we just put 150 more lots out there today, and it's that we have a new state senator, I think, in that area. I think that's part of Senator Reeves' area. So if we could get TDOT on board to be looking at that, I think we ought to be pushing for that as a commission.
I was involved with some planning actions that were happening in Smyrna a couple years ago, and there was an expert in the room who made the comment, and it has never left me. It actually sits with me at every single meeting we have, and he said, you are where you are because of the policies you have. And so that's my concern about that Manchester Highway area. I don't want to wait till it's hot and on the radar. I want to do it right now while it's calm, and we're thinking through, and we're doing our jobs as planning folks to make sure that we're planning for that development, because we know the way the market is, it's beginning to run wide open. And so at any moment, all these things could change. All the areas that we're concerned about, we could be faced with decisions on those. So anyway, we are where we are because of the policies we have, and we need to look at our policies.
Work with the city as well, because a lot of these industrial users are connecting to their sewer. So once that application is made, most likely they're annexed into the city.
I'd like to add that I agree with everything that Rhonda says, and I hate to back up just a little bit on this billboard situation, but now my concern is going to be that we're discussing the billboards and we see a rush of permit applications on those that somehow get grandfathered in until we come up with some sort of regulation. So Josh, is it possible to place a moratorium today on any future permits until we decide if we have what sort of regulation that we want to do, if any?
Today? Is that your question? Can you do it today?
Yeah, yes.
So we've looked at, I'm going to give you an answer, but it's a lawyer answer. So we looked at moratoriums one other time when we were dealing with the changes to the subdivision regulations. And so I'm remembering the research around moratoriums at that time. And my memory is that moratoriums can only be used in planning circles in very limited circumstances where there is an impending change on the horizon. So, for example, if you passed a new zoning ordinance that said, here's our new zoning ordinance and it's going to be effective July 1, then you might get away with a moratorium between now and July 1 because it's an impending change, and so you're trying to prevent the very rush that you're describing. I would be reluctant to advise you to do a moratorium in the abstract, where there's no actual plan on the table that would deal with billboards. I think that's the best opinion I can give you on the fly.
Couldn't do it for a study period? Like if we made it a very finite 90 days, 120-day study period? Well,
you can do anything until it's challenged. So I don't know if it would get challenged, and I don't know, I mean, I think we would take the position that we have now picked the scab, and we are now actively working on a way to address billboards. And so in order to avoid having billboards go up before we were able to address it more comprehensively, a moratorium was put in place. I mean, that would be our defense. If your question is, can I cite cases to support that today, The answer's no. I might be able to if you gave me a little bit of time.
Is there a better word, maybe a less inflammatory word than moratorium we can use? You know what I'm saying? A lot of times it's in the delivery.
Right. I mean, to be honest with you, I don't know right now whether or not you couldn't turn down, I don't know what's happened at Veterans Parkway. You might be able to turn down applications right now based on the language in the zoning ordinance, because we're having a discussion about what is it a scenic parkway or is it a, what is it? And under our zoning ordinance, it's characterized as a scenic parkway, I believe, and billboards aren't permitted within a certain distance or whatever. So I think for the time being, it may be that staff could tell people, under our zoning ordinance, this is characterized as a scenic parkway, blah, 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 you can't do it. And then the burden is on that applicant to establish that something about that denial is an error. And that may be a way forward. I don't have that in front of me.
I know that if anyone along private property along 824 wanted to apply for a building permit and it was along 840, we could deny it. Based on our zoning code, it doesn't allow it.
So that may be in the short term, the best process is just to deny it. I do think if you're going to do something more comprehensive on billboards on 840, we need to be really thinking about it. Billboards are speech, and so you get into free speech issues, and there are many, 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 many cases all over the country on free speech associated with billboard advertising. So it can get complicated real fast. I doubt Williamson County or Wilson County is very interested in having billboards littered everywhere. So I suspect you could get something going that way. And in the meantime, it sounds like staff can deny the application based on the zoning ordinance, and that probably would be your position for now.
Yes, so my question to that would be, how did the 3 go up that are there? And what grounds can we use now to deny them if we've allowed those 3 to go up?
I don't know the locations of the 3.
I saw them for the first time, I don't know, 2 weeks ago, and because I never traveled that section of 840, and I looked up and there were 3 right in a row just before Veterans Parkway.
Might be in the city limits, city of Murfreesboro limits.
And again, I think whatever we do, we need to coordinate with the city, like you demonstrated with Elam Road. I think they would be on board with this. You know, but they at least need to be part of the conversation, because we do need to all be on the same page. Exactly like you said, even for Manchester, when they annex, it's just best if we're all on the same page.
Those 3 billboards you're speaking of do appear by that map to be in the city limits, so I think maybe the city should be involved in this. And with that being said, and hearing what you say, Josh, I think I want to throw out there that we prohibit any issuance of new billboards until such time as we construct some sort of possible policy regarding future billboards. And I understand that the zoning ordinance prohibits, but I think I want a little backup until such time we can ensure that.
Is it good to put a date on that, Josh? Like 90 days or something like that?
It's realistic to think a policy can be, I mean, that's up to you. Is 90 days a timeline that's realistic, or 120 to try to put something in writing in front of this group?
90 days, yes.
You always revisit it, I guess, in 90 days.
So I'll add for a period of 90 days and make that in form of a motion, sir.
Motion and a second. Josh, could you read that motion?
I think the motion was that the issuance of any permits for a billboard in the next 90 days would be denied while a more specific policy is investigated as already provided under the zoning ordinance.
Is this just 840 that you're concerned with, or 24?
I think specifically I'm looking at both 840 and 24. for the time being. And it's possible we need to adopt something for other areas, 231 and some other highways, but I think for the time being, we want to focus on those two corridors.
Sorry you missed this meeting.
Yes, he is.
Might have to bring you back from New Orleans sooner.
Everybody understand the motion? We have a motion to deny any additional signage on 840, I believe it is, until the county can work out some type of a policy, and we have a 90-day period to do that, in essence. Any questions?
So if 840 has been reclassified and is no longer a conservative thoroughfare, or whatever the buzzword is, it sounds like we may need some political assistance with TDOT to have that renamed or restructured or reclassified. Is that a fair statement?
I think so. I don't even know. I mean, you may get into federal issues at some point. I think Mike may know better than me, but I suspect there's a federal agency involved at some level with an interstate, by definition, means it's interstate. So I suspect there's a federal agency at some point that deals with classifications of those roads. So at a minimum, I would say, to answer your question, yes, I would think at a minimum at the state level, you want some involvement.
Our senator, who's an AP, the chairman of the Transportation Committee, we may need to see their assistance in communication.
Federal Highway Administration, local office, and
Any other questions? You ready to vote? All in favor of this motion, please say aye. Is there any opposition? Motion carries. Thank you. It may be wise at our next county commission meeting, which will be on Thursday, the 17th of May, for Doug, since he's not here, make a brief statement before the county commission as to what this commission, the planning commission, is looking at, to kind of give them a heads up as to what we're doing, in case there are questions that come their way and their districts. Does that sound okay? So,
Jeff, one thing, Josh, will you look and see what we can legally do?
I will.
More in depth?
Yes.
Before the next meeting. Danielle, will you and Doug contact the city and Williamson and Wilson County and get their thoughts on what we're doing?
comment. Anything else? Been a good meeting. Thank you for your participation. I apologize again for my lack of hearing effectiveness today and appreciate you correcting me. Early voting ends this Thursday, which is the 26th, and primary election day is next Tuesday. If you haven't participated in that process, do so within the next week. Anything else? Thank you. We're adjourned.